right, awesome. Well, I think the panel's actively wrapping up now, so happy to kick this one off. This is going to be Ocean Protocol. We've got Jamie Hewitt, who's one of the blockchain devs, who's going to take you through kind of what they're building and how they're working with Moonbase Alpha. So take it away, Jamie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. As Nate says, I'm Jamie Hewitt, blockchain developer here at Ocean Protocol, and it is a real pleasure to be here today as part of the Moonbeam Illuminate event. So I'm going to run you through a bit in terms of the problem that Ocean Protocol is here to solve. I'll talk about the key concepts of Ocean Protocol and also how it works, and then I'll get on to doing a live demo as well. So we started out with a very compelling problem statement. We have on the one side, we've got large-scale enterprises who've got huge amounts of data, and they're not really using it as much as they could be. Perhaps they don't have sufficient sort of AI or machine learning expertise. And then we have, on the other hand, startups, and we've got data scientists. We've got a lot of AI expertise, but they're kind of starved for data. They really need more. So Ocean Protocol is here to be the connective layer between the two, and we are aiming to connect thousands of data publishers with thousands of data consumers. So one of the ways that we can do that is, of course, by enabling people to sell their data over the blockchain. But we're actually taking that one step further, and one of the things that we've actually been working on is something we call compute to data. So this enables you to essentially create your modeling algorithm and bring it to the data. And what you will get back is your modeling predictions. So the data itself is never actually exposed to the consumer. So you have the data sit behind a firewall, and you can still compute on the data without ever actually sort of exposing it to the consumer. So as you can imagine, that brings with it a couple of advantages. Firstly, a lot of data is incredibly sensitive, and we all need to be compliant with GDPR. But secondly, there are a lot of organizations who are actually quite nervous about selling data. There may be fear that it might end up on the black market or changing hands kind of illegally. So this hopefully can actually give people a lot of confidence. And this is something we're actually, I'm quite excited to say, launching this week. So it's quite timely to mention that. So in terms of key concepts, the architecture of Ocean Protocol, we of course have the smart contracts, and they are run in the Ethereum virtual machine. Now that forms the network level. On the component level, we've got a couple of libraries that we use to interact and call the smart contracts. We've also got components for encrypting the data URLs and also for caching the data assets as well to make it easier to discover them. Then finally, of course, we have the sort of application layer, or in this case, the decentralized application layer. And from our side, that's the Ocean market. And that's what I'll be demonstrating today. But this is the layer that we're really hoping to see sort of blossom and expand. And we're really encouraging people as much as possible to fork the market and create their own marketplaces and really be creative in terms of thinking of applications that can really make the most of Ocean Protocol. So in terms of the actual data, you remain the custodian of your data assets. So Ocean Protocol does not provide storage. Your storage will be applied by the consumer, and that can be any one of a number of legacy systems. It could be AWS or an on-premise server. And then it could also be on perhaps IPFS and a completely decentralized option as well. So when you publish your data asset, we are actually generating data tokens. Now, these are ERC20 tokens, and it's actually these data tokens that are used to purchase access to the data. So that could be a limited time access. Maybe you can purchase access for one day, or it could be purchase data for an indefinite period. And in order to create pricing for the actual data assets, the person who's uploaded has got two options. Either it could be a fixed rate exchange, so that's a fixed rate exchange with Ocean token, or it could be set dynamically through an automated market maker by creating a pool. And we actually use Balancer for that. So in terms of how it works, as a publisher, you'll start out with the URL that will link to your data. And you'll basically, the first step will be to encrypt the data, which is done by our provider. These calls are made by our libraries, so either OceanJS or OceanPy. The second step is to create the data token and then mint the data token. And that is done, of course, by the smart contract. And then finally, we publish the DDO on-chain. And that includes the metadata and also the encrypted URL. And then our service called Aquarius picks that up and caches it to make it easier to search. And we're also using Elasticsearch as part of that. So in order to consume a data, what you will do as a consumer, you'll first make a request to our provider in order to purchase a data token. The provider can sort of optionally make a number of checks. There may, at this point, be some restrictions that have been placed on that data. If that's all okay, the consumer will purchase one data token. They will then send the data token to the smart contract, and our provider makes a check with the smart contract that that data token has been sent. And assuming that's all okay, the data is then streamed directly to the consumer. So it's important to also recognize that the location of the data is never actually revealed directly to the consumer. The data itself is transferred directly, so they don't actually receive the URL where the data is stored. And alternatively, like I was talking about previously, this could actually be the point when the compute job is actually started up on the data rather than kind of streaming the data directly to the consumer. So in terms of our current deployments, we're live on the Ethereum mainnet. We're also on Polygon. But of course, the reason that we're here today is actually because we're very excited to be talking about our deployment on the Moonbase Alpha testnets. And that really does form our first phase of integration with the Moonbeam network, which we hope to continue. And we'll be following up with a fully fledged deployment, which will also include bridges as well. So let's now get started with a demonstration. So I'll show you the Ocean marketplace. So this is the first place that consumers might come if they want to discover data sets. And you can come here and you can search for the type of data that you might be looking for. You will of course have to connect a wallet directly to the site. So in this case, I'm using MetaMask. So hopefully a lot of people are quite familiar with MetaMask. And you'll see here that the market has recognized my wallet. It's seeing the tokens that I actually have in place. So we're actually now ready to publish. So here, okay, so a couple of steps. First of all, obviously you have to add in a title for the data set, a description as well. That's also going to be very, very useful. And then a file as well. Okay, I've just posted the link to the Crowdcast just as an example, which is just an HTML file. It can pretty much support most sort of types of files. If it was something there that was not supported, you would get a little error message saying that it was not possible to process that file because we run checks on it at this point. So you can also place here a sample of the file if you want to perhaps give a sort of free sample to your customers before before they've made the decision to purchase the data set. In terms of access types, this is now where you would actually specify if you wanted people to be able to download the data or choose compute to data. And we're only a couple of days away from launching the compute to data. So you'll also find that option there in terms of the access type. In terms of the timeout, this now is the amount of time that you want people to be able to access that data after purchasing it. So if you consider that your data set may be something that you're updating very, very frequently, you might want to place a limitation on how many times they can download that, because of course then it forces the consumer to go back and purchase another data token. So I've selected 1 month for that. We're of course creating a data token. So our data token means a name. Turbulent Penguin is of course a very suitable name, so we'll stick with that one. The author name of the person uploading it, so that's me, that's perfectly fine. And then I've also added a couple of tags in here as well to help users discover the data. So now we're actually perfectly set to submit that. And then the next couple of steps are just signing transactions. So you'll see here I've got the pop-up from MetaMask. Hopefully that's a user experience that people are kind of sort of familiar with. We're running a little bit short on time today, so I'm going to skip ahead slightly and I'll come back to that tab to show that transaction completed. But you can see here the next step that you would find yourself on, which is, okay, the publishing data set has now completed, and now we have to actually create the pricing for the data set. So here we can see, okay, here's the option to create the price. And as I was explaining before, you've got the option to, first of all, perhaps create a fixed price. So we could maybe say we want 10 Ocean tokens. This pop-up here is actually just the second transaction as part of that publish request that I did in the other tab. Or, like I mentioned, we can actually create a pool so that the data is actually set dynamically, and that's using the automated market maker, and it's using Balancer as the automated market in this situation. Okay, so in order for that to work, we need to have a suitable balance of tokens available. So I've just, for simplicity, selected 1 Ocean token as our price. And then that means it's perfectly fine to have 21 Ocean tokens in ratio to our 9 data tokens that we have here. So at this point, it's worth me also explaining how the pricing works in terms of the fees that are spent. So first of all, there is the swap fee. Now, the swap fee is actually shared amongst the participants who have contributed to the data token pool, and they will get a proportionate share of those swap fees. Now, in many ways, we see the size of the data token pool a curation of the best data sets, because, of course, the people who are participating in those data token pools, they want the highest number of fees, and they're going to contribute to what they consider the most kind of reputable and most highest quality data tokens that they'll want to participate in the pool. So if you want to, you can actually try and give yourself a little bit of a head start here by increasing the swap fee, as this will give people, particularly the kind of early joiners, a bit of an extra incentive to join the pool around this token. Of course, if it's too high, then that can end up being a disincentive to actually purchasing the data token itself. So next we have the community fee. So the community fee is actually taken from the transaction and shared with the Ocean protocol community, and that is done via Ocean DAO. And through Ocean DAO, we invest in a number of very, very interesting projects that support the Ocean protocol ecosystem, and we provide them with grants. So I'd suggest if you're perhaps a little bit interested in that, or maybe you think you could be a recipient of one of those grants, I'd highly recommend joining the Ocean DAO town hall calls that happen once a week. And I'm happy to provide some more information on that a little bit later. And then finally, of course, we've got the marketplace fee. So this is a marketplace run by Ocean Protocol. So that's a fee that we receive, and the fee is then handed back to the Ocean community as well. But if, for example, you were to fork the Ocean marketplace, or maybe you built your own marketplace from the ground up using the components that we've provided, you could actually set this fee to however you wanted it, and you would actually then be the recipient of that marketplace fee, and that would give you an incentive and a reward for the sort of the development efforts that you've actually put into creating your own market. So I will create that dynamic pricing now. And we'll have another couple of transactions related to that. So I'll just confirm those. Before I go on, I'll just show in that other tab that initial publishing of the dataset actually went through perfectly well. So it kind of demonstrates everything's working very nicely on Moonbeam. Once the pricing has been set, you arrive at a page like this. And the only thing that you might still want to do at this point is to edit the metadata, and you might want to change your description, or you might think that you want to change the time for the timeout, and you can submit that, and that will be another transaction that will need to go through in order to actually in order to be able to save that, and that kind of completes the user journey from the publisher's perspective. So I'll kind of finally show now from the consumer's perspective. What you have here is, you've got the option to kind of search a number of data tokens if you want, and I can just sort of open a couple up just to kind of show you how this works. So what you have here, you've got the option to contribute to the pool if you want to participate in that. You can add liquidity and gain part of those transaction fees. You can also trade directly between Ocean tokens and the data tokens, if that's something you want to do. Or you can directly buy the data set. So that actually takes the couple of steps of buying the token and then using the token to purchase the data sets. So you'll see here, this is one that I've actually purchased previously, and it's recognized the fact that I've done so. So it's not asking me to purchase another token, but because this one, and it's the Ocean Protocol white paper, it was set to sort of timeout indefinitely. I'm able just to kind of confirm that transaction and have that go through. And that now is downloaded the white paper, and that's a demonstration of how it's streaming the data directly to the consumer, and you can see it open now. So that really concludes the talk. I'd love to answer some questions on Discord later, but unfortunately that's all we've got time for now. So I'll hand over now, and thank you very much for joining.
Awesome. Good work, Jamie. That was great. And like you said, feel free to hop over to the Discord. I think the link was provided earlier. Hop in there if you've got questions for Jamie. But thanks again for joining.
Thanks a lot, mate.
Great job.
Thank you very much.